Hey, welcome to CS Connect. My name's Mike. This is Pat, and today we're doing a pastor chat with Pastor Pat. Hey, Pat. So we just finished up week 4 of Unfair Advantage.
Yeah.
I thought it was
It's been
really
a great series.
It has been.
Yeah.
I'm really excited that we kind of jumped into this one. I thought it was really unique that we chose you, or however that works, that you're preaching on power and strength.
Yeah.
You know, they picked the really kind of weak-looking person to do that.
Yeah, but you do notice my opening story is all about me losing an arm wrestling match, right?
Yes, yeah.
Losing.
And your dad tore your literally, he tore your rotator.
Oh
cuff
yeah,
or
I've
whatever?
had problems ever since.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, and he claims he felt bad about it, but yeah, this shoulder's been messed up ever since.
So was there ever a get even moment? Like,
I never could. He was that much stronger than me. Like, he had old man strength up until he died. I was he died 10 years ago, but
Right.
no, I could never get even with him.
Yeah. And so can we see the dent? That's the real question.
Yeah, no, it's right there. I don't know if you can see it.
If we zoom in
right
on
there.
the cameras here. Yeah, look
There's
at that.
literally a dent, and that's my dad's thumbprint on my arm.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is like hard to believe almost.
Yeah. I wouldn't believe it if someone told me, except it's on my arm.
It's
and
here.
Been there for
I have it.
20 plus years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Pat, you said this, I wrote it down, and I thought it was really powerful, but it also creates some questions for us.
Yeah.
You said, we're not struggling to win. We've already won.
Yeah.
And that was a big moment in the message for me. I also know that for some, it doesn't always feel like we've won.
Yeah.
And so can you unpack that a little bit? What's the tension there of, we've already won, but sometimes we feel like life is just full of defeats.
Yeah. You almost wish you had a follow-up sermon to unpack that, because that's the tension, right? I think one of the things, the hope that we have, and that's what I was trying to say in that statement, is that Ephesians 3:20 is saying that this unimaginable power that we can't even begin to comprehend, that's at work within us. Mm-hmm. So if that's true, then the victory is guaranteed. Mm. The tension that we feel is that we still have to fight. There's still a struggle. So, for example, for every addict that God miraculously heals, that happens sometimes. I have a friend he was a cocaine addict. He came to Jesus. The moment he prayed, boom, it was gone. Never, ever again has he ever had a desire to do. But for every one of those, there's 100,000 that it'll be a struggle every day for the rest of their life. Right. The tension is that it may be a struggle every day of their life. They may be fighting that every day of their life, as we all do with whatever addictions we have. The tension is that God is also saying to us, but if you choose, the victory is guaranteed. Doesn't mean there's not going to be a battle, but the victory is guaranteed. Why? Because this power that we can't comprehend is at work within us.
So what, for an everyday person who's struggling with something and they're trying to live in that victory, the Spirit of God in their life, what are some practical ways for them to be reminded that they have victory even though things are hard today?
Well, I mean, one practical one is memorize that verse and tell it to yourself often.
Saying it. Yeah.
I mean, I quote that verse to myself often because, like I said in the message, the lie the enemy wants us to believe is that we haven't and we won't and we never have and we never will and we're too weak and you can never stop looking at that. You can never stop drinking that. That's the lies we constantly get. And yet God is saying, yes, you can. Mm-hmm. Not on your own, but because of the power you have in me. So I think one practical way is memorize that. When those lies start coming in, just stop and say, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within me.
So Pat, talk to us about this. Talk to us about, what does it look like for us to actually have the power of God in our lives? You talked about some really big things through Scripture that we see God do. Yeah. What does it look like every day? I mean, as we're watching this on Monday morning, what do we know about seeing the power of God in our lives?
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked that, because there's that one phrase that I used in there where I said the same power that raised Lazarus from the dead, the same power that raised Jesus from the dead. That's what Paul talks about in Ephesians 1. The power that had Jesus walk on water, that power is in us or through us. Mm-hmm. The problem is that most often when we have these conversations, we immediately start thinking of these like, okay, then should I see some miracles this week? Should I have a miracle healing or should I be able to walk on water? Well, does God still do miracles? Absolutely. Of course he does. Mm-hmm. But actually, when the Bible starts talking about the power of the Spirit working in and through us, Paul talks about in Galatians 5, what will it look like? Fruit.
Yeah.
It'll look like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. That our lives, when we live in the flesh, in our own power, that's not what's going to come out. That's not how we're going to live. But practically speaking, that power that raised Jesus from the dead will enable us to live out that fruit.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, we talked about that last week, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're so enamored with the big stories.
Yes.
And isn't it cool to think that the everyday moments of the presence of God in our life come out with peace in a moment that shouldn't provide peace?
Yep.
Or love in a moment that we could just as easily be angry.
Yep.
You talked about the shuttle, which kind of took me back. I grew up in Florida.
Yeah.
I told you about that. But
so you got to see that.
Yeah, like multiple times. What were the stats on that? Like how much weight?
It's 4.5 million pounds. And within 8 seconds of taking off, it's going 100 miles an hour. Within a minute, it's going 1,000 miles an hour.
That's
a lot of power.
Incredible picture of power,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Remind us today to see the power of God in our lives. Remind the people watching today that same power, greater power, happens in our life every single day.
Yeah. Well, I would go back to, again, we have an enemy that's going to lie to us. We have an enemy that is going to say, you've been struggling with pornography, or you've been struggling with bitterness, or you've been struggling with anger for 20 years or 30 years. You can't stop. And I think the thing we have to start with is we have to start with saying that is not true. That is not true because God tells me it's not true. I actually think, with the 12-step programs that were started a little over 100 years ago, that millions of people have gone through. One of those steps is to sit down and admit, I cannot do this in my own power. I need a higher power. Now, the original ones recognized that was God. That we can't do it on our own. We need a higher power. And that's, again, this truth. We got to start there as saying, today at 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 p.m., when we start having those lies come back into our minds, we have to stop and go, yes, it's true that I have failed many times with this when I try it in my own power.
Yeah, that's great. And what a great reminder for no matter how big or how small our struggle might feel, that's the foundation of what we have to do. We have to come back to realizing that we can rest in the power of God. So thanks for tuning in today. We hope this is a blessing to you. Be sure to like, share, comment, so friends and family can be a part of this conversation we're having.